Very slow pacing. You are tired. Not the kind of tired that a long night of sleep can fix, but a deep, marrow-level exhaustion that comes from a lifetime of translation. You walk into a room, a family gathering, a business meeting, a casual dinner with friends, and you immediately feel the shift in atmospheric pressure. You watch the people around you engaging in the rhythm of small talk, the easy exchange of pleasantries, the synchronized laughter at jokes you don't find funny, and you feel like an anthropologist studying a species you resemble but do not belong to. You have learned to mimic their gestures. You have learned to smile when the cadence of the conversation demands it. You have built a sophisticated interface, a mask of normalcy, just to survive the social friction. But underneath that mask, you are constantly calculating, analyzing, and suppressing the urge to say what you actually see. Because when you do speak your truth, when you drop the mask for just a second, the room goes quiet. You see that specific glaze come over their eyes, a mix of confusion and subtle recoil. They look at you as if you have spoken in a dead language. You retreat. You apologize. You tell yourself that you are too intense, too complicated, too much. You convince yourself that this coldness spreading in your chest is a defect, a crack in your foundation that makes you incapable of simple human connection. But I am here to tell you that this diagnosis is wrong. This numbness you feel is not a malfunction, it is a protective shield. It is a biological and psychological firewall designed to keep your core safe while you navigate a world that operates on a different frequency than you do. You are not broken. You are suffering from the perceptual surplus. You see too much, you feel too deeply, and your brain has initiated a strategic withdrawal to prevent you from burning out. Imagine for a moment what would happen if you stopped fighting this. Imagine if you stopped trying to force yourself into the jagged puzzle piece of the collective expectation. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of this struggle, not a lonely outcast, but a calm, untouchable observer. A person who can stand in the chaos of modern life and offer profound clarity because they are not drowning in the emotional storm. This is the sweet result we are aiming for. The ability to help others without bleeding out. The power to be different without being destroyed by it. But to get there, we have to navigate a very specific, very dangerous trap. There is a fine line between the wise observer and the arrogant hermit, and right now, you are walking on that razor's edge. Carl Jung spent his entire life studying this specific type of loneliness. He didn't view the person who stands apart from the crowd as a failure. He saw them as the necessary antidote to the sickness of the mob. Jung believed that the collective meant safety, but it also meant unconsciousness. To be part of the herd is to be asleep. To step away from the herd, to be different, is to wake up. But waking up is painful. Jung argued that the moment you begin to see the world through your own eyes, rather than through the lens of society, you create a tension. You become a problem for the group because you no longer validate their illusions. This isn't just philosophy, this is biology. Modern neuroscience confirms that when a human being feels socially rejected or distinct from their tribe, the brain's anterior cingulate cortex lights up in the exact same way it does during physical injury. Your brain interprets your difference as a threat to your survival, flooding your system with cortisol, the stress hormone. This is why it hurts. This is why you feel that urge to shrink, to blend in, to apologize for your existence. Your biology is screaming at you to get back in line because for thousands of years, being the outlier meant death. But you are not in the savannah anymore. You are in a complex psychological landscape where being the outlier is the only way to find meaning. Jung warned that the danger isn't in being different. The danger is in how you interpret that difference. If you believe your difference makes you a god, you fall into inflation. If you believe it makes you a monster, you fall into depression. Most of you watching this are leaning toward the latter. You have internalized the silence of the room as proof of your unworthiness. Let us look at a specific case to make this concrete. Perhaps you are like Elias. Elias is a software architect, brilliant at spotting patterns that no one else sees. In meetings, while his colleagues are arguing over surface-level symptoms of a coding error, Elias can see the root cause, the structural flaw buried 10 layers deep. One Tuesday, during a critical strategy session, he speaks up. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He doesn't wrap his insight in the social styrofoam of polite corporate speak. He just lays out the truth. The entire project is built on a fallacy. If we continue, we will fail in 6 months. The room freezes. His boss looks annoyed. His co-workers look defensive. They don't hear the truth, they hear an attack. Elias feels that familiar heat rising in his neck. He sees the rejection on their faces. In that moment, something inside him snaps shut. He decides, consciously or unconsciously, that he will never offer his true insight again. He does his work, he clocks out, and he goes home to a dark apartment where he feels safe, but utterly alone. He tells himself, "They are idiots, I don't need them." This is the beginning of what we call compassion bankruptcy. Elias thinks he is protecting himself, and in a way he is. He is conserving energy. But by judging them as idiots and withdrawing completely, he is severing the very connection that keeps him human. He is becoming cold, not out of malice, but out of a desperate need to stop the pain of not being understood. You might recognize Elias in the mirror. You might know that feeling of withholding your best self because you are afraid it will be rejected. You might have developed a habit of sitting at dinner parties, listening to people complain about their lives and thinking, if you just did X, Y, and Z, your problem would be solved. But you say nothing. You nod. You drift away. You feel like a ghost in your own life. This detachment creates a feedback loop. The more you withdraw, the more alien the world seems. The more alien the world seems, the more you withdraw. Jung called this the danger of isolation, where the individual becomes trapped in their own subjective reality, unable to build a bridge back to humanity. You start to view people as two-dimensional cardboard cutouts, predictable and boring. You lose the ability to be surprised by others. This is the gray zone, a state of being where you are safe from rejection, but you are also dead to joy. But here is the crucial reframe. This capacity to detach, this ability to step back and analyze, is actually your greatest asset. It only feels like a curse because you are using it as a weapon against yourself and others, rather than a tool for navigation. You are trying to use a microscope to hammer a nail. The coldness you feel is simply potential energy waiting to be transformed. Consider this. What if your inability to resonate with the normal world is not a failure of empathy, but a difference in frequency? What if you are broadcasting on FM while everyone else is on AM? The static isn't because you are broken, it is because you haven't learned how to tune the dial. We need to break down the mechanics of this difference to understand why it feels so heavy. It usually manifests in 3 distinct stages, and identifying which stage you are currently stuck in is the first step toward that sweet result of calm observation. The first stage is what we call the friction point. This is the phase where you are still trying desperately to fit in. You are over-explaining yourself. You write long text messages trying to clarify your tone. You stay late at parties you hate, hoping to have one meaningful conversation. You are constantly auditing your own behavior, asking, "Did I say that right? Did I look weird?" This stage is characterized by high anxiety and high energy expenditure. You are burning emotional fuel at an unsustainable rate. The danger here is pure exhaustion. You are fighting a war against your own nature, trying to prune off the parts of yourself that make you different so you can fit into a box that is too small. If you stay in the friction point too long, you inevitably slide into the second stage, which is where Elias is. We call this the fortress of solitude. This is the defensive pivot. You stop trying to explain, you stop trying to connect. You embrace the label of the loner or the introvert, not as a preference, but as a shield. You cultivate a cynical worldview to justify your isolation. You tell yourself that people are shallow, that society is doomed, that popular culture is trash. While these things might be objectively true in some regards, using them as a reason to disengage from humanity is a trap. It breeds bitterness. The fortress creates safety, yes, but it becomes a prison. Inside the fortress, the air grows stale. There is no new information coming in, only the echo of your own judgments. But there is a third stage, a stage that very few people reach, but it is the destination Jung wanted for you. It is the stage where the danger of being different transforms into the power of being different. This is the stage of the lucid participant. The lucid participant is the one who has realized that their difference is not a bug to be fixed, but a feature to be deployed. In this stage, you no longer try to force the world to be deep, nor do you hide from its shallowness. You simply observe it. You understand that the small talk, the social games, and the collective illusions are necessary for the social glue of the tribe. You stop resenting the normal people for being normal, just as a bird does not resent a fish for swimming. You realize that your function is different. You are not here to blend in. You are here to bring something from the deep water back to the surface. This is not arrogance. This is role acceptance. But before we discuss how to achieve this state, I want to pause. If you are listening to this and you feel a tightness in your chest or a sudden wave of fatigue, I want you to just stop for a second. You do not need to prove your depth to me. You do not need to leave a comment explaining your history of isolation to validate your existence. You do not need to perform being understood. Just breathe. If you recognize this coldness in yourself, this distance, know that it is not a sin. It is simply the heavy coat you have been wearing to survive a winter that only you can feel. You are allowed to take the coat off for a moment. You are safe here. Now let us look at the mechanics of this transformation. How do you move from the bitter isolation of the fortress to the calm power of the lucid participant? Jung believed the answer lay in a process called individuation, but let's strip away the academic language. Individuation is simply the process of becoming who you actually are, rather than who you were told to be. For the person who feels too different, this means changing your relationship with the collective. Currently, you are likely operating with what we could call a porous border. When you go out into the world, you are absorbing everything. You feel the anxiety of the stranger on the train. You feel the desperation in your friend's voice. You feel the chaotic energy of a crowded street. Your mirror neurons are firing rapidly, trying to simulate the emotions of everyone around you. This is why you burn out. This is why you become cold. You have to slam the door shut because you have no screen door. It is all or nothing. The lucid participant develops selective permeability. This is the psychological equivalent of a cell membrane. You allow information to come in so you can understand it, but you do not allow the emotional toxin to infect your core. You learn to stand in a room full of panic and observe the panic, without becoming the panic. Think of it like being a deep-sea diver. You are in the ocean, surrounded by the crushing pressure of the water, the collective emotions, but you are inside a pressurized suit. You can see everything. You can interact with the environment, but you do not let the water inside the suit. If you do, you die. The coldness you have been judging yourself for is actually a primitive version of this suit. You just need to upgrade it so you can move more freely. This brings us to the most dangerous trap you will face on this path, the shadow of superiority. When you start to accept that you see things others do not, it is incredibly easy to fall into spiritual pride. You might start thinking, I am awake and they are sheep. You might treat people with a subtle condescension. Jung warned that this is the death of the soul. If you think your difference makes you better than others, you have simply traded one illusion for another. You have moved from feeling like a victim to feeling like a god, and both are lies. The truth is much more grounded. You are not better, you are just a scout. In ancient tribes, the majority of the group stayed by the fire in the center of safety. That is their job, to maintain the community, to keep the culture alive. But every tribe needed scouts. The scout is the one who goes out to the perimeter, into the darkness, to see what is coming. The scout sleeps alone. The scout faces the predators first. The scout often seems cold or distant to the people by the fire because the scout's mind is focused on the horizon, not the conversation. If you are a scout, stop being angry that you don't feel like a villager. Stop trying to force yourself to care about the things the villagers care about. Your lack of interest in their drama is not a defect, it is mission focus. You are designed to detect threats and opportunities that the group cannot see. When you accept this role, the bitterness evaporates. You stop blaming the villagers for being short-sighted, and you start protecting them with your vision. You realize that your difference is a form of service. So, how do you practice this in your actual life, tomorrow morning, when you have to go to work or deal with family? You use what we will call the translator protocol. When you are in a situation where you feel that friction, that urge to withdraw or to snap at someone for being shallow, shift your internal stance. Instead of being a participant trying to win the conversation, become a researcher. Ask yourself, why is this person saying this? What is the emotional need underneath their words? When your colleague is complaining about a trivial issue, do not engage with the triviality. Do not offer a logical solution that they will ignore. Instead, listen to the frequency underneath. They are asking for validation. They are signaling stress. When you hear that, you can offer a simple nod, a brief word of comfort, and then move on. You satisfy their social algorithm without draining your own battery. You are engaging, but you are not entangled. This is the secret of the sweet result we promised. The moment you stop needing the world to understand you, you become free to understand the world. The tension drops. You walk into a room and you are no longer a jagged puzzle piece trying to fit in. You are the space in which the puzzle exists. You become the container. People will start to be drawn to you, not because you are loud or charming, but because you are still. In a world of noise, your silence becomes a refuge. They will feel that you see them, really see them, even if you say very little. This path is not easy. It requires a constant, vigilant effort to keep your heart open while keeping your boundaries strong. There will be days when the loneliness feels unbearable, when you wish you could just take the blue pill and go back to sleep. But you know that is impossible. Once you have seen the structure of things, you cannot unsee it. Your burden is heavy, but it is yours. Jung believed that the evolution of human consciousness does not happen in the masses. It happens in the few individuals who are willing to carry the tension of opposites. You are the laboratory where the future is being built. Your struggle to integrate your difference is not just for you, it is a contribution to the whole. So, do not despise your coldness. Do not hate your solitude. Polish it, refine it. Turn that emotional firewall into a lens of absolute clarity. The world does not need more people who fit in. It needs more people who can stand apart and point the way. See you in the next dimension.